or setting up my unconscious beliefs about alcohol, my non-negotiables. What am I not willing to do for the sake of alcohol? And so all this stuff is in my brain, and I'm writing it down on sticky notes every morning when I'm getting ready. I had all of these crazy beliefs about the benefits of alcohol to me, and I started sorting through those. I had so much in my brain that I felt like I just needed to get that out to somebody that, wasn't a family or friend, but really somebody that was a counselor or coach, or somebody that could help me, that could sort through this. So that's when I reached out to one of the coaches in the program, and that's been life-changing.
I've made it through hard times before, and I've come out stronger and better because of them. I'm going to make it through this.
Sobriety is scary. That's why Untapped Keg explores different perspectives of sobriety and mental health, so that you know you are not alone. Hopefully, you can find something you can implement into your own life. Sobriety and mental health are topics that often are uncomfortable and complex. We do not shy away from any conversation. But you should know we try to be respectful, but there's always room to learn and grow. Everyone is welcome here, as you are, and you will be respected. We are not medical professionals and do not give medical advice. Please seek medical care if you need it. Now let's get to the show. Hey, you. Thanks for tapping into some Untapped Keg, podcast where we explore the different perspectives of sobriety and mental health so that you can take something and implement it into your own life. We believe that the only right way to go alcohol-free, sober, change your life is the way that works for you. I'm RJ Zimmerman, and I have been sober for 9 years, and I started this podcast so that you don't feel alone. Before we get into today's episode, let's talk about coaching. If you're interested in mentorship for getting sober and thriving in sobriety, book a free call with Jake Yoder, founder of the Natural Highs coaching program, which uses mindfulness and holistic health to help you cultivate inner peace and find purpose in your sober life. Jake has been on a recovery and spiritual growth journey for 9 years and has helped hundreds of people all over the world with mindset and lifestyle shifts to reach new levels of well-being in sobriety. On the call, Jake will help you explore the root causes of the suffering that led to addiction and provide you insights and resources to help you feel great naturally in sober life. So that's Jake Yoder at Natural Highs Recovery. We endorse him as a coach at Untapped Keg, and the reason is because he cares more about you, the person, than he does about the money that's coming in. He's going to take care of you. And if it's not a fit, he's not going to take you on as a client. So follow the link below if you'd like to book a free call to see if Jake is somebody you'd be interested in. And that leads nicely to today's episode, where I'm talking with my friend and fellow coach in training over at This Naked Mind, Karen King. How are you doing today, Karen?
Hey, RJ, how are you? I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to talk because every time we talk, it's fun. There's laughter and there's nuggets of wisdom. And yeah, that has me excited today. So, Karen, for people just meeting you for the first time, who are you?
Good question. I grew up in a strict religious home. Where alcohol wasn't allowed. And my parents never drank. My grandparents never drank. I don't even think I'd ever even seen alcohol until I was in high school. But in high school and college, I did the normal drinking thing that kids do. Nothing out of the ordinary, okay? But it wasn't until I was in my 40s, through a series of traumatic events, that alcohol became something that I turned to numb out and cope with life. When I was 40, my husband passed away from cancer. And he left me and my two daughters. They were 11 and 8 at the time. And it was a really hard time. It was a really hard time for me and my daughters. But I will say that my biggest driving force in life has always been my kids, my daughters. And so I knew I needed to be there for them and go through the grieving process, help them through the grieving process, and pick myself up and provide a home for them. So I did, I did fairly well at that, actually, looking back now.
I'm glad you're giving yourself credit, because that's not an easy thing to navigate in life.
Yeah, and it took a while for me to give myself credit, and I didn't realize how difficult that was until 20 years later, looking back upon that time. That's what's crazy, is you go through stuff and you don't realize how strong that you really, really are. And I'm thankful for that, to know that my strength. So a couple of years after my husband passed, I started dreaming of having a home for my children with a mom and a dad. And so I married again. And I actually would call that a rebound marriage. It was difficult. It was difficult for me. It was difficult on my daughters. But I will say that the one thing is, I have no regrets about that marriage, because from that marriage, I was born my third daughter, and I was 43 years old. She was a huge gift to me and her sisters. It was amazing. And she's still, to this day, is the joy of our lives. She brings so much energy and joy and vitality to us. And I will never have regrets for that. But I will say that the marriage was difficult. It was very, very difficult. And that's where I began drinking to soothe myself and to cope in this difficult situation. And so I stayed in the marriage for 7 years. And during that 7 years, I coped with alcohol. That was my go-to. And after 7 years, we divorced. And I'll tell you, that was another one of those really low times of my life. I felt so beaten down and washed up and just a shell of myself. It was a tough time. But there again, my driving force was my children. And now I had 3 daughters that I needed to take care of. And I was their only natural parent that was going to take care of them. And so I wanted to provide a good life for my daughters. And so I decided to re-enter the corporate world. I'm an accountant. And I was 50 years old. I hadn't worked outside the home for 20 years, but I knew that was my avenue to provide a good life for my daughters. And so actually one of my mottos is, and it's still to this day, this is never too late, never give up. Because I had my youngest daughter at 43. I entered the corporate world, back in the corporate world at 50. I became a finance exec at 52, and I was on the board of directors at 55. And so that's
incredible. I just want to point a spotlight at it. Like I'm sure it was so nerve-wracking to jump back into the corporate world, that much of a gap. And then to have success like that, that's incredible. And I could tell from the look on your face, for those who are listening, you could see the big smile on Karen's face. She understands how special that is. But I want to point out also and give you your flowers, that is incredible.
I didn't realize it there again. I didn't realize it at the time. You just don't realize what you can accomplish in life, and you don't fully embrace it until after. we try to live in the present moment, but sometimes you just don't realize, what you have done and what you've been through and how strong that we really, really are. Yeah, it was incredible. But the downside of that story is that there again, that is when alcohol entered my life again and became a big part, because we were out every day after work, drinking, fancy restaurants, bars. It was a huge part of my fun was the drinking. And it was fun for a very short while until it wasn't any fun anymore, right? It started controlling me. It started controlling my life. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you one of the most horrific things and most traumatic things, really, that's ever happened to me that, of course, impacted my daughters. So one day, my 9-year-old, my youngest, was off of school. And I was home working, and I was day drinking all day, sitting at the kitchen table with my computer, just working, drinking away. And I passed out later that afternoon. I passed out. My daughter saw me and was, of course, terrified. I'm thankful that she knew enough to run to the neighbor's house to get help. The ambulance was called. The police were called. My 2 older daughters were called. And my daughter had to watch, my youngest daughter and my older ones too, had to watch me carried out on a stretcher into the ambulance. And for a million reasons you can imagine, it was horrible. But here I am, a single mom who just takes so much pride in the mom that I am and providing for my children. That has been my driving force. And here I am being carried off on that stretcher. And my children instinctively know I am their only natural parent that is caring for them. And so it was horrible. And it was humiliating. I was charged with a misdemeanor. I was put on probation for 2 solid years. I had to call in to the courts every single day to see if I needed to go in and give a urine sample so the courts would know I wasn't drinking or not. They wouldn't let me travel out of town to see my daughters. I had to meet with my probation officer periodically. And it was humiliating. It was a very low time of my life. And but thankfully, I passed all my requirements and fulfilled my requirements after 9 months. And I was taken off probation. My record was expunged, thankfully. Here is the craziest part of this story, and the worst part of the story is, I would love to sit here and tell you right now that is when I gave up alcohol. But guess what? It was 5 more years before I began the journey to rid alcohol from my life. And that is how insidious and addicting that alcohol is. So
I think that's a very, thank you for sharing that story, because it's difficult. And that's where you really see alcohol being sewn into every fabric of society. Like, it's not just the physical and everything. It's that you feel like you're losing out on life at first, or when you have the prospects of giving up alcohol, you feel like you're losing a piece of your life. And that's where talking about these things helps.
absolutely.
So, be kind to yourself that you didn't know any better and you did the best with the information that you had.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. So true. So during that next 5 years, a couple more bad incidences happened that my kids witnessed. And after 5 years, I was like, I got to do something. This is crazy. I don't want to be the drunk mom anymore. And I certainly don't want to be a drunk grandma someday, who gets prohibited from seeing their grandkids. And so it was terrifying. And I didn't know what to do. This would have been 2017. I didn't know what to do. So the only thing I knew was to call AA. And so I went to my first meeting in April of 2017. And I met a lot of great people in AA. For the next 3 years, I would say I was probably 75% alcohol free. I had a lot of wins. But after 3 years, I was like, something is missing. I need something else. I need, I wanted to be 100% free. Okay. And so this good friend of mine in AA and I decided, or we heard about this book, This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. So we read the book, and then it was fascinating because here's all this new and fresh information and all this scientific information about your brain and alcohol. And it was fascinating. So my friend and I did the 30-day alcohol experiment. And then over time, we joined their 1-year program called The Path. And I will say that 4 weeks into that Path program, I had my last drink. And that was December 6th, 2021. And yes. And I will say that I could have never imagined what this life would be after alcohol. It is unimaginable how grateful I am for this life I have now. So I'm going to summarize it for you. This is what I'm going to tell you is that I would say about 3 months before getting alcohol free was my most miserable. And I told my husband at the time, I said, I've got to stop drinking. I'm not going to be here anymore. And I would describe myself at that time as, this is how I would describe myself: semi-retired finance exec, a recent empty nester who sat around eating, drinking, scrolling my phone and watching reality TV, wondering, is this all there is that remains of life? So I did 2 things. Got rid of alcohol and I got a life coach through This Naked Mind. And so I would say over this last year, my life has literally transformed. And I'm so grateful. So you're going to ask me how I would describe myself now. So I'm going to tell you, this is how I would describe myself now.
I love it. I love it.
Okay. So are you ready? Author? No. Back up. Right now, currently, I'm going to describe myself as writer, creator, motivator, coach, and teacher. And someday soon, author, speaker, mountain climber, and grandma. So, yes.
All right. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sharing your story, it gets easier, but it's never easy. And I want to commend you on that because it is, you never know how people are going to react. So I appreciate you doing that. And I appreciate you also, the positives that are in there. Like, one thing that I've learned, because for so long I wanted to bring the negatives up, is that when you bring the negatives up, you bring the positives down, and you really do kind of sit in that middle, and there's not much in between. So when you're grateful for being able to learn lessons from your past, no matter how painful, it really sets you up to be where you are now, which is, laughing, smiling, talking about how the future is going to be like excited, and you're not sitting there thinking, what is left of life? I know there's something more. I know there's a change that I need to make. What could it possibly be?
Right.
So when you're doing, let's say, the path, you're doing this
Yeah.
interesting learning about alcohol, its effect on you, and you reached out for a life coach. What prompted you to reach out for that coach?
Oh, good question. Okay. So my friend from AA that I was telling you about, she had actually joined the path before I did. And so she knew the process. And so when I was talking to her about it, I said, when I knew I needed to do something more, get into some kind of program, I said, should I get into that path program with others in this in this community? I didn't know how wonderful it was. It's amazing. Or should I just get one of their coaches? And she said, go into the program. And she said, then when you're in the program, if you feel like you need additional help, then you can always see which coach you connect with and contact them. So I was in the program for a couple months, and then my brain goes into overdrive. My brain just loves to sort through stuff and think about stuff. And I was literally in overdrive with setting up setting up my unconscious beliefs about alcohol, my non-negotiables. What am I not willing to do for the sake of alcohol? And so all this stuff is in my brain, and I'm writing it down on sticky notes every morning when I'm getting ready. I had all of these crazy beliefs about the benefits of alcohol to me, and I started sorting through those. I had so much in my brain that I felt like I just needed to get that out to somebody that, wasn't a family or friend, but really somebody that was a counselor or coach, or somebody that could help me that could sort through this. So that's when I reached out to one of the coaches in the program, and that's been life-changing.
And, one thing that we talk about coaches, but another word that we could really put in there is, mentor. And
Absolutely.
we lose sight of how important mentors are in our life. Like, I've had them at every step. Have they always been positive? Have they always been people who had my best interests at heart? And have they always been like life-changing, life-altering? No. But that doesn't mean you can't find someone. That doesn't mean you can't connect with them and reach out, have someone to help guide you. So you're going through this path, you get a life coach, and they're helping guide you with all this new information you have. You're finally, instead of waiting for life to come to you, you're creating the life that you want to live.
Exactly.
When does it strike you that you want to give back in a bigger way and look into becoming a coach?
Okay. Look, can I go back and just say something related to a coach?
Absolutely.
Okay, here's two things. One is a coach, but also a friend, can see things in us that we can't see, right?
Yes.
I mean, we could see something in our friend and help them with that we don't even see in ourselves until somebody else points it out. Okay. Now take that one step up, and a coach, what they do is unlike a friend, a coach is there just to coach you and to be there for you. So we nurturing types then who want to help everybody, and automatically when somebody's helping us, then in the back of our minds, we are thinking, how am I going to help? How am I going to turn around and help them? So we really, well, let me step back. So therefore, a coach is not bringing their stuff into the relationship. Therefore, the client has an opportunity to completely let go and be guided and be coached without having those worries like you would with a friend, to make sure that you're giving back and that you're allowing time for them, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I got this visual in my head as you were saying that last part. Like, it really is somebody who will sit down next to you, open up your bags, open up the baggage that we all have, and sort it with you, fold things,
Yes.
organize, and be like, you're still carrying this. You don't need it anymore. Let's toss it if you want, and allow the person to make that decision. Like, that's that visualization that I just had, and then helping people carry that as well. Like, that is so powerful. I love the way that you broke that down. That was amazing. Thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah, sure. And so that's what's been instrumental. And even we types like you and I, coaches in training, we want to always give back. So it's hard then when you have a coach and we have that desire to give back. But then because coaches are professionals, they are highly trained. They know they are there to just meet our needs. They are not dumping their stuff into the bag that you were just talking about. Okay. So that is the difference between a coach and a friend. Of course, the
Yes.
high degree of training, but also that they're not bringing their stuff into the relationship. They are there for us. We can release our need to have to care for them, which is hard to do, but that's,
yes, it is very hard to do.
It's very hard to do. But and the coach knows that in order for us to reach our full potential, they must set that boundary, and it's hard to call it a one-way relationship, but you know what I mean by that. They must set that boundary because they have to know inside that this is what's best for the client, is they're not bringing their stuff in there. And that's why you and I, like when we're going to be coaching with our other coaches in training, we have to continually grow and be the best we can, because we don't want to bring our stuff into the mix with our clients. We want to help them. We want to guide them. We want to teach them, motivate them, be there for them, plant seeds for them, etc.
And, when you're your best self, but you've experienced lows, right? You can be there at a level, and then you're growing and you're allowing yourself to be sad and, not be proud of things you've done, be, even shameful, because shame isn't necessarily toxic. When it gets
Correct.
to a level, it can be. And these negative emotions that we have, understanding that they're only negative because we say they're negative. Like, that's it. They're just emotions. And being able to sit there for people and just show that it's okay to be human. Like,
Absolutely.
that's what we are. And how far that goes when you just give it to yourself and then you extend it to other people. It's beautiful. Right. It is very beautiful. And it creates that life that you can go out and grab.
Well, yeah. And everything, it's cool because everything that we've been through in life now, we can offer up. We can relate to our clients. They realize that, oh my gosh, you've been through a lot too. I can do this. We can relate. No one has a perfect life, but we've been through a lot. And one of my sayings that I like is, let me think about this, is it's the definition of redemption. So redemption is when we when we help somebody else, their transformation is our redemption.
Mm,
Do you see that? We are redeemed from our past because of helping this person transform. We are using our past, the good and the bad, and it's redeemed now that we have helped or coached this other person become transformed through the good and the bad we've been through.
that's powerful. That's really powerful. And that can be applied to parenting too, right? Like,
Exactly.
how much do we want to redeem ourselves through our children? But then we keep on continuing those cycles that we're going to redeem. And instead of transforming ourselves to help transform our kids, they continue down. And you see it not all necessarily all the time, but often. So that's so powerful. I love that. I love that so much. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Sure. It's just I always try to make sense of my past, because it's like, oh, you go through all this hard stuff. How can you take that hard stuff and then re-look at it or give back or, and it's kind of like regret, right? So another thing is I try not to look at anything from my past as regret. It doesn't mean I don't regret some things, but now I use that to say, I am where I am today. And I love where I am. I love myself today. I love the person I am today because of all those things from the past. I had to go through all those things to get to where I am today. If I had, I am the person I am today because of everything in the past, good and bad. I'm going to accept that.
And that word's so important. It's so hard to describe to other people too, that acceptance, right? Accept.
Right.
And internalize that.
Right.
What you're saying, people are going to relate to that and understand it and be able to, with that similar vocabulary, accept themselves as well. And that is a gift that, you can't put a price on. You can't even quantify how much that can help somebody in that first step.
Absolutely.
So, along with coaching, mentoring, and everything on that path, community is so important, especially in life,
Yes.
with mental health, with parenting, with everything in life. Sometimes, especially now, we lose sight on how much community means to us. How much did having the community of This Naked Mind and like-minded individuals, how much did that help you to grow yourself?
I will tell you that it was almost everything. And another one of my philosophies is that we can't do this in isolation. I mean, that's just how I feel. I mean, I certainly have tried. I've certainly tried to do this in isolation. I felt like I lived in isolation the last 5 years of when I was drinking. I was just going to work and, I did have my, thankfully I had my friend from AA and we'd walk and talk and stuff, but really I didn't reach out. I was pretty well isolated. And when I did not know the power of a community. I had no idea. Signing up for the path, I'm clueless. It took me 2 months to, a couple months to get online. And this was right after I got the coach, and she had encouraged me to, just start putting some stuff out there and start interacting with some of the people in the community online. It's okay. Everybody's scared. I would not even speak. I know you find this hard to believe. I know you're going to find this hard to believe.
It's all part of the transformation. That's all.
It's a transformation. I would not even speak a year ago at our Zoom meetings within our PATH community. I was absolutely terrified to open my mouth. But then again, I'm getting off track, but that goes back to the whole thing of alcohol keeps us small, keeps us quiet, keeps us isolated, right?
Yes.
So all of that alcohol back there, that's what happens to us. And so the community was really everything. And so I just slowly got in, began to talk on Zoom, started interacting with the people, like-minded people just like me. Then we started having so much fun. I just started having so much fun, and we all did posting online. How are we doing? Sending encouraging messages. Everybody is responding to somebody's having a rough day. We were all over time. We were all at different places on our journey, up and down and all over the place, but everybody was there to support, and no matter where you were in your journey. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And through that, I realized that the community to me was everything. And I did not realize how I had isolated myself so much over the last 5 years with the alcohol, and how much I was thinking, oh gosh, I must be a really, really introvert. I mean, I still probably am an introvert. I guess maybe extroverted and introvert, who knows? But I thought, oh, it's just I'm isolating myself because I'm just an introvert and don't want to be around people. That is so, so untrue. I just got so much energy, vitality from the community, and just falling in love with encouraging people. That's where I started noticing it. That's where I started noticing it, was within that community. Oh my gosh, I love motivating, encouraging others who are on the same journey as me. And also that's through the writing, online in our little, it was not Facebook, but whatever the community was called.
Yeah.
I realized that it was a way for me to express myself in writing. So I started journaling at home, and being able to express myself. And then the creativity started pouring in, all of these things that I didn't even know were there, rediscovering who I truly was. And there were glimpses that I caught of myself that I had remembered from long ago, in my 25 years ago, around the time before my husband passed away, when I felt more myself. But I feel like over the last 25 years or 20 years, I've lost that. It was cool because there was glimpses of myself that I could remember from way back when, leading people, motivating people, encouraging people, using my voice, all of that had been pushed down just through life, and allowing that through alcohol, just being pushed down. So the community was everything. It really was.
I think when we start to learn about ourselves, like, it's scary, right? Especially because when you admit that I lost myself, so who am I in this? But
yes,
you said something in there that made me reflect on my journey and resonated with me, like, at my heart, and like opened my eyes to how isolated I made myself. Like, I did for 8 years, I isolated myself with, my sobriety, but not just that, like in life. I didn't talk about my stresses. I didn't talk about things about myself. I just kind of hid them. I would have never shown my proton pack in the back, right? Like, because I had a certain quote unquote image to uphold, or the box that people wanted to put me in, I allowed myself to be put in, kept me from being me, and kept me spinning my wheels, knowing that I need to make a change, knowing there's more, but not knowing where to go with that. And then how do you connect with other people when you can't even connect with yourself, and how disconnected and chaotic that is?
Yes.
But when you start to connect with others, and that's what this whole year has been for me, is stepping back into creating connections, creating a community, being open to exploring myself, being open to exploring life more, creating my own community, but then also finding other communities, and how much, our class of coaches in training, that how we connect on such deep levels over so much. I mean, there's laughter, there's joking, but then there's serious, and we can do all of that. And that's important. It's very important in life to be able to do all of that. And when you lose it, sometimes you're like, oh, it's not important, until you get it back.
Yes. Yes. Well, and two, I was just thinking while you were talking, the other thing that the community has done for me is, I'm going to use the word inspiration.
Yes.
It is crazy to me to think that I never truly grasped the word inspiration prior to, I'd say, this last year. So, for example, I'm trying to decorate my house, right? And so you need an inspirational piece to start with. What? What are you talking about? What's inspiration? I have no idea what you're talking about. Remember, I am an accountant. I'm black and white. Well, I was black and white. Everything's exact. I had no idea until, with a coach and also with a community, the words they would say to me would inspire some kind of thought or feeling, emotion, that then I could take and write about or think about, and it's inspired and motivated me to do better. But it was through those words of in the community that inspired me. And then sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. The other thing I was thinking about when you were talking is the word vulnerability.
Yeah.
What do you think about that word?
It used to be scary. And sometimes I don't think I understand what vulnerability is. Just because what's vulnerable to me may not be vulnerable to somebody else. And what's vulnerable to somebody else may not be too vulnerable to me. But, really the past 5-6 months, embracing vulnerability is true strength, real courage, and allowing myself to be vulnerable with myself, admit that I'm afraid. I never used to admit when I was afraid. I'd be, no, I'm not afraid.
That's good.
Even though, like, inside I am scared shitless, right? Like, I mean, I'm moving, but I'm moving because my brain is forcing me to. I'm not moving because my heart is in it. So
absolutely,
just little things like that they add up to really allow yourself to be vulnerable from a space of, I'm not saying this to one up you, or I'm not saying this because I want you to fix something. I'm saying this to let you know that you're not alone. I'm saying this to allow you to understand why I'm making a decision that I'm making, or why maybe I think a certain way.
Sure. Sure. Well, and you think about, we were just talking about connection within our community. Remember, vulnerability is what drives connection.
Yes.
So, you and I have in our class have, I don't know, we've just seemed to connect instantaneously, but there was something about picking up or embracing each other's vulnerability, because that's what drives connection. Because just the niceties of life that's fine, and we don't want to be vulnerable with everybody. But if we're wanting true connection and to really connect with somebody, we need to be vulnerable. And of course, there's all kinds of boundaries around vulnerability about what's safe and not safe, but our connection, I think you and I saw the vulnerable side of each other within our connection, and maybe our desire to motivate others or encourage others. That seemed to be there too, because I can feel that from you too.
Yeah. And I really think it's the approach to life as well, the sense of humor, on top of being able to take the things that we learn and want to share them, and
yes,
increase our vocabulary with how we understand the world. And yeah,
absolutely.
You're right. Like, opening up with vulnerability, like it does lead to not just a deeper connection, but an authentic connection, that you can have a conversation that you're laughing one second, crying the next, and then the next time, like, you're going to be, I can't believe that, that, like, we went through all of this, but here we are. And that is like, that is the beauty of connecting with the vulnerability. But as you said, it's important to understand the boundaries on how much am I going to be vulnerable. I'll step out a little bit, see how it is. I can step out a little bit more, but that doesn't mean that you just drop everything at once.
Absolutely. Well, and also I kind of, I like when I like to be vulnerable, but it would be I need to make sure that I've already processed the stuff internally, so that my sadness and grief, and so that I could, like, if I'm talking to you today, so that I could get the words out without crying, because then that means that it's so sensitive that it's probably not the appropriate forum to be going into something that's that vulnerable. But if it's an area or something that's happened to me that I have processed and I have gone through, I've learned through it, I've eliminated the shame, then I feel, within, yeah, you still have to be careful, but I would be I would be willing to be vulnerable in those areas. And I think that to me is a determining factor, is if it's okay to be vulnerable in certain, but you need to make sure that you've processed it yourself. And I think that in our group they call it a scab versus a wound. So the wound is still open and you're still trying to process. It's just this huge gaping hole. And then a scab is when you're starting to heal it, and it starts scabbing over and you're starting to heal. That's when I think that I feel okay to be vulnerable on those types of things. If it's an open wound and I have so much shame around it still, that's not something that would be something I would share with a coach and work through. That's another thing a coach is for, is to work through those deeply, deeply shameful things from our life. And that's what I did. It took me a whole year to to dig through with my coach, all of those things. So, but that's what's a coach. That's what another thing a coach is for.
Yeah. And, there's some things too that therapy can help with as well. So,
absolutely,
sometimes coaches, we have to have boundaries as well, as you said. So
absolutely,
if there's something a little too deep, we'll guide you to therapy as well. I'm in therapy and I've benefited from it, but I've benefited so much more tangibly from coaching. Therapy has been very helpful to me, but like just with the coaching and things like that. And I've always wanted to be a coach. Like that's what I enjoyed about my job. That's what I've enjoyed about so much, in my life, where I'm laughing and smiling, is also, helping others to realize their potential as well.
Absolutely. Well, and then too, one other thing, just real quick, talking about therapy and coaching, it's very hard to describe the difference. I've also been in a lot of deep therapy, and when I was younger, but a coach will take you where you are right now and move you forward. So if you're telling yourself stories and making up stories about your past and the shame, then the coach is taking you from this point today and moving you forward, and not diagnosing and things like that. That's kind of how I describe it in my mind as far as the difference.
Yeah, same. That's very similar to how I do. So it's great that we're on the same wavelength there.
Yeah.
So as we're kind of wrapping this up, Karen, what is something that you would like people to take away from listening to this episode?
Well, let's see. The one big thing, of course, is it's never too late and never give up. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to be 64 years old next month.
I still don't believe it.
Yeah, well, I am starting the next phase of my life. It's never too late. I feel like I'm 40. It's never too late. You can do it. Whether you're giving up alcohol, whether you're wallowing in your shame, whether you have dreams of doing something that you have that's big. It's never too late. And don't give up on that. And also with the alcohol thing, the only failure, because it can be a journey of ups and downs.
Absolutely.
Never give up. The only failure is giving up. Keep growing, keep learning. And that's for everything in your life.
And it doesn't have to be a chore.
Oh gosh, no, it's way too much fun. That's what I'm saying now. Living in the present to me means having so much fun today that I can't imagine that tomorrow would be any more fun than it is today. So to me, that's living in the present. So yeah, so I think that would be my one big thing is never give up, and it's never too late. And that's what I just want. And I just want to inspire and people to create the life that they've always wanted to live. They know inside and they have it, but now it's their opportunity. It's our opportunity to uncover all those things and to explore and to live large. Stop shrinking, stop living small. We can create the life that we've always dreamed of.
That's what
I want to help people do.
Yeah, I just want, I want to sit and soak that in, that you can create it, right? So, as my printer finally decides after an hour of sitting there and not printing, it's going to go.
Hey, that's okay.
If people want to keep up with you, Karen, where can they find you?
Okay, so right now my website's not quite up yet, but I would love for people to go to my Instagram account. And that Instagram account is this alcohol-free life. And it's this _ alcohol-free _ life. And so you'll put that in the notes or whatever. But
that'll be in the show notes so people can find it.
Okay. I would love for people to catch up with me there. And you can always email me at KarenKing@thisalcoholfreelife.com, all one word, thisalcoholfreelife.com. You can always email me there. I will have my website up shortly. It'll be KarenKingCoaching.com. So please connect with me. Every day on Instagram, I try to write motivational, inspirational material to help everybody create their best life.
And I love it. It's all useful. It's things that you can take and implement. And it's just, it is inspirational, as you say. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story and
yes,
really allowing us to connect with you. Like I had so much fun like talking through this stuff, as I always do when we talk. And this has been wonderful. So this is Untapped Keg, where we explore different perspectives in sobriety and mental health so that you can take something and implement it into your own life. Where we believe that the best way for you to make a change your relationship with alcohol is the way that works for you. So try it. Because as Karen said, the only failure is not trying anymore, is giving up. And
right.
Go to untappedkeg.com/community and be part of the show. Leave an affirmation, leave a mantra. You can do it anonymously, sign up, interact with the things that are going on there, and let me know if there's something that you want me to bring to the show. And I will try to bring that in. So, Karen, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's been great. I've had so much fun. Thank you for having me. This was a blast. Love talking to you.
I'm glad you had fun. So let's try to be better tomorrow than we were today, because at least we don't make it, we tried. Have a great week, everybody. I love you.
Bye, everybody.